The time is January 1995, released exactly a month before his death. Our writer-director Philip Burrows tells the tale of Angus, who meets a stray yellow lab. Him and his family take him in and name him Yellow. But when a routine boat trip with Angus, his dad in yellow, turns into a violent accident, Angus is thrown into the untamed wilderness, miles from home, surrounded by danger with no hope of being found. This week on Back to the Balcony, we cover Far From Home, The Adventures of Yellow Dog.
Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert, two titans of cinematic review. Sometimes right, sometimes wrong, but always captivating. Your hosts Antonio of the Cult-Worthy Cinema Podcast and Justin Henson of the Movie Wire are here to take you back to the balcony.
All right, so I think this one sums up our animal movies for the month. I don't know. We'll probably have some later down the road, but this one I put on the list because following the theme of Milo and Otis and Alaska, this one was a family tradition during the summer. I remember this one going up to our lake cabin and only having a VHS player, just putting Yellow Dog in the VHS. My family loved this movie, but I haven't seen it for years. And, I almost have this movie memorized, and it brought back a lot of nostalgic memories, which is going to be very biased in this review because there is a lot of flaws. But at the same time, my viewing, I liked it because it doesn't follow the same tropes as we get from every other dog movie. The one thing that this movie has in its defense is the fact that it properly balances man versus animal. It works in just unison when it comes to the dangers that we see when it comes to a standard formula dog animal adventure movie. So, my rewatch wasn't what I remember, but at the same time, it's hard to resist.
Well, you're not going to hear me complain because I talked about it in the Milo and Otis episode, and I talked about it in the Alaska episode. This is what I wanted Alaska to be. To me, this is like the pinnacle end-all be-all of 90s survival movies with a kid and an animal. Yellow Dog fucking rocks. I've always liked this movie, and it was hard for me to pick another animal movie because you already had it on the list, and that's why Milo and Otis went on there, which I'm going to say right now, I regret putting that on there. I thought it was going to hold up so much better than it did. It might be one of my least favorite conversations because the movie is just so dull and short, and there's not a lot of depth to it. Our critics even had a hard time trying to convey their opinion because it just feels like nothing at the end of the day. This is the movie that I was looking forward to. For one, Jesse Bradford kicks ass in this movie, man. And I always liked this kid, right? I liked him as Joan Cusack's son in My Blue Heaven. I liked him in King of the Hill. He's gone on to do a lot of fun stuff. This is the movie that convinced me when I was 14 years old when it came out, that if I got stuck in the woods, I could survive because I learned how to survive from this kid. That's what Alaska didn't have. Alaska, I never felt that those kids were in real serious danger. Like I said, they always bump into the poachers. They bump into the indigenous guys. They've got Cubby, and Cubby is useless compared to Yellow. This is the animal movie that I was waiting for.
Well, I think what I loved about this movie as a kid is that it does give us a little bit of some advice, but at the same time, some entertainment value of watching what would happen if you're alone in the woods. Again, it does have some flaws of what would you do in this situation, but that's also a positive because it really does tell us and make us critically think of what would we do? Because there is a moment in this movie where Yellow and Angus are on the beach and they're like, we've been here for 9 days with no help, and I know we're supposed to stay still. He verbalizes what you need to do, but then he goes on saying, well, I think for 15 miles away, it'll take probably 2 days. So why in the fuck did we wait 9 days? So I think there are elements like that where we do have a little bit of contradiction of survival instincts, do what's right. But at the same time, when he's actually in the woods with Yellow, it's not about the dog, it's not about him. He is the one in control, but they're both at it for survival without adding an overly overused cutesy factor of the amazing yellow lab that we kind of want to see more of because it's cute. It's an awesome dog, but it's never gets tempted to go full on animal.
Right. Well, that's why I think like the marketing and even the title of the movie are a little bit of a MacGuffin, right? Like it's not necessarily a Yellow's movie. Yellow's a big part of it, but this is Angus's movie. The survival instinct of it, the fact that he's got like that little girlfriend who bakes him like shitty cookies, and that kind of is what saves their lives. I love all that kind of stuff, how it bleeds together. One of the things that the critics say later on is that the parents are kind of useless, and they kind of are. But then again, we just watched Alaska, and they're even more useless in that movie. So these parents look amazing in comparison. And I like the actors. I like Mimi Rogers and I like Bruce Davison. I think they do a great job. It's not their fault that the script is very stereotypical and kind of lazy when they fill in that backstory exposition. Just like Alaska, I was like, get back to the kid and the dog. That's all I care about. I know they're looking for him. I know there's tension that needs to be built of the guy's about to give up the search because it costs $200,000 to find him, and we're not going to go back and find a dog. Just get me back to the dog. Just get me back to the kid and the dog. That's all I care about. But tell you what, man, what Alaska lacked that this one exceeds in every way is cinematically. This movie is gorgeous. The cinematography is amazing. The guy, I didn't look up the cinematographer, my bad. Maybe you have it on your screen, but the fact that this guy knows how to really operate in these lush settings, wide angle lenses for the big shots, long lenses for the close shots. So you've got all this detail on the dog and on Angus, and all the leaves in the back are kind of blurry, cut to a beautiful crisp wide shot. It's gorgeously shot. And Alaska lacked that. And we talked about that in that movie where it's like, how do you waste such great natural settings with shitty cinematography? This movie had it in spades. It also adds to the tension too, because when you see him shiver, when you see the cold coming out of his mouth, the steam, his breath, the teeth chattering, all of that is not only captured perfectly cinematically, but the sound design is amazing, the editing is amazing, the stakes are high. This is like Revenant level filmmaking, but it's a kid and a dog. And that's what kind of got me engrossed to begin with, is that you can cover up a lot of storytelling bullshit if your movie looks good and if it sounds good and you feel like you're actually in a cinematic experience. And that's what this movie did to me. And I watched half of it on my big screen downstairs and half of it on my phone, right? And on both formats, I was in.
Well, the cinematography was done by James Gardner, who sadly didn't have a huge career after this movie, which is shocking to me. But I think this movie knows what it's doing when it comes to how to have kids feel or how kids engage with movies, because we don't need the cutesy dog. We don't need the overdone stakes that we got from, like, say, Alaska. This one really does zoom in on two elements that will resonate with kids: cold, hunger,
Yeah.
lost, if we were to add a third. This isn't a movie about the adventures of Yellow Dog. I can only bet the last 10 minutes to make this a solid 90-minute movie was Yellow Dog finding his way back home, because we do have that awkward, and this is kind of my nitpick of the movie, is we do get the point where Yellow Dog is falling off the log into the river, and then we don't see him for another 10 minutes. There is a gap here that just feels awkward. It feels weird, and it feels like something should have been in place. So if I were to assume that this was going to be 10 minutes of Yellow Dog finding his way back, and the movie was going to market and put its title based on Yellow Dog finding its way back to home. So, and I think that actually might have helped this movie a little bit. Again, if I were to nitpick, because I think that would have added almost an individual story, a subplot to justify the stakes a little bit.
And see, I looked at it as more of, let's say, an analogy or, in a sense, a utilization of mysticism, where the idea of Yellow Dog falling in the river and Angus feeling that he's never going to see him again. That's almost like that experience of survival in the woods was like his rite of passage into manhood. And in order for him to really become a man, the dog has to die. That's the way I've always looked at it, is that he thinks the dog is dead, not coming back. No one's going to go rescue the dog. The girlfriend's there. He's a man now. His dad tells him a man now. But that doesn't necessarily have to be the way life is, because the dog comes back and it's not a ghost dog. It's not a fantasy. It's not a dream. It's real. So the way I look at it is, it's almost like society is forcing him to say, you got to let that dog go, kid, and be a man. Don't cry. Be tough. And then the dog coming back is a way of saying, no, you've already gone through all that bullshit. It's okay to have some happiness and a friend and some caring and some empathy. Like, that's the kind of ending that I liked about it. I didn't need to see an incredible journey montage of the dog making its way back home. That's why I say the mysticism. It's like he's there, you know? It could have been an easy walk for him, or it could have been a walk of struggle. We don't need that story, in my opinion, because we've seen enough of what it's trying to say about Angus's journey of survival. Now he's a man. I don't need that dog anymore, but I really want that dog, and the dog's there. That's just the way I look at it.
Justified. And I'm going to feel like the big asshole here, where I'm going to nitpick
what's new
part of the movie, but it's one of those that I brought to the table. And to clarify, I don't hate this movie. I like it, but I'm going to state the obvious is we got the same shot from Homeward Bound of the animals coming over the hill, the grassy happiness. And it would have added more stakes to it, because here's kind of the deal is, if we go on that journey with Angus, is he could have made that journey without Yellow. And if it was justified where it was him by himself, where we had a sporadic moment of him trying to survive by himself, realizing that there was loss, then I would say that this is a journey of him becoming a man. But these two were well balanced in supporting each other. Angus more so for Yellow, I think, but I think it was too good of a balance to justify the ending, because we get that point where it's just kind of feels thrown in. It doesn't feel earned. It feels like there should have been something in between, because if this was a true journey, this would have been, Angus surviving by himself, but instead he kind of looks like, I don't want to say it, almost a dick, with not screaming at the rescuers saying, bring me down, bring me back my dog. We're going to go all together. I almost wanted that formulaic moment where there is a struggle saying, or a realization of Angus saying, I couldn't have done this without Yellow. We are going back down for him. That is this moment that I really wanted, is to bring that dog back, instead of seeing almost the traumatic flashback from Milo and Otis last week of an animal falling off a log into a river. That's what I didn't want. Is I wanted something motivational to say everything's going to be okay, especially given the runtime. But for 10 minutes to make it a solid 90-minute movie, I think we needed a little bit more to justify both journeys. We could have had an Angus journey and a thrown in 9-minute Yellow journey to just just show the struggle of Yellow going back to his journey.
Yeah, I think less is more, in my opinion. You know, I think it's fine. Also, he didn't just fall off a log. That was like a 90-foot drop from a log into the river. And in the defense of Angus, right before he passed out, the last thing he heard was the guy in the helicopter saying, "Don't worry, we'll get your dog." And he's like, "Ah." And then the pilot's like, "Oh, it's windy in here. We got to get out of here." So no, we're not going back for the dog. Anyway, it's a moot point between our opinions of the movie. So I think that if I had to pick it apart, and there's not a lot for me to pick apart, I think I rarely have less frustration with a movie than you do. I respect the 80 minutes. I respect the 80-minute runtime. I respect the need to not have to indulge in character development of the girlfriend, of the mom, of the dad, of the dickhead rescue guy. Like, I feel that they utilize them just enough to keep the story moving and to create that sense of tension where we can't give up. We can't give up. You have to have some humanity in there. I would have loved the movie to been 100 minutes, right? I would have loved the movie to be just an hour and 10 instead of an hour and 20. Get rid of those fools and just keep with Angus and the dog, right? If anything, I wanted the movie shorter. Not that it was too long, but we didn't need those, in my opinion. So that's kind of my only real drawback of the movie is the adult stuff. And our critics talk about it too, but at no point did I feel that it was unnecessary. I was very, very satisfied with the film. And you know me, the shorter the movie, the better.
And again, it's not a bad movie. I respect that. I remember this movie being a lot longer as a kid. But I think that's because the emotions just kind of stretch themselves into a situation where it doesn't feel the need to rush itself, where we have situational elements like boar is running out of the woods, wolves running out of the woods. It doesn't, I think that's the biggest reward of this movie is it focuses on the mere survival aspect
Yeah.
and doesn't feel the need to really insert elements to make it feel like, oh, come on. This one feels like if I got lost in the woods, this is what it would look like. And I think that is where it really sparks the imagination of youth to even adult.
Well, and that's why I think that he did need Yellow on this journey, because that wolf would have eaten his ass raw had Yellow not been there. Like, it kind of needed it. But also the connection of, obviously, you and I are animal people. We both have dogs. We love dogs, blah, blah, blah. That scene where he catches, like, that little muskrat, and then you see him cook it on his little spit, and it's literally, like, one bite of food, and he gives half to the dog. That's what I'm talking about. That shit wasn't in Alaska, and that wasn't in a lot of the animal movies of the 90s that we've talked about. That right there was like, yes, I would do the same thing. In fact, take the whole muskrat. I'll eat my arm, right? That's how I was with the movie.
I was with you. I'm like, why split it? And I get the intent of survival, but I'm like, give him the whole damn thing. He's a good boy. He is standing by you.
He deserves a treat.
Not? Find another fucking muskrat. Like, this dog, I think if they would have portrayed it in a shot where the dog didn't look so damn cute, I think it would have been a different story. But this shot was just like, I don't think there'll be any argument from anybody saying, give him everything.
Right. No, but they do blend the animal-human dynamic very well. Like, at no point does the dog feel gimmicky. At no point does the dog feel like it's a marketable thing. Like, I think it's really just well done. That's my biggest compliment of the movie, in my opinion, is that you guys made an 80-minute long child in the wilderness survival movie with a dog. You called it Yellow Dog, but you did not make the dog the main part of the movie. Like, that was such a brilliant move because the expectations were low of what this dog's going to do. Like, if it started talking in the middle of the movie, I would have gotten up and walked out, right? Like, they kept it grounded in reality so much better than Alaska and many other movies of the 90s did. So at the end of the day, I got to say that I'm a Yellow Dog fan. I have been since it came out. And in my opinion, there is no better animal kid movie in the 90s. We're not talking about Babes or Incredible Journey, Homeward Bounds, where the animals talk. I'm talking about like reality-based animal survival movie. This one by far is my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, this one, again, holds true to my heart, and it's just so tragic, Philip Borso's last written and directed film. It's one of those that's one of his best films, and I think it would have followed the path of something greater when it comes to the way it was shot, the way it was, the vision of what he had with it to inspire a lot of survival films down the road. So it's a sweet bliss that this was his last film, but also a sad one.
Agreed. Okay, so let's hear what our critics had to say about it. Here we go.
Our next film is called Far From Home, The Adventures of Yellow Dog. And it's not pleasant to knock a movie about a feisty dog who endures all manner of hardships to find its way home through the wilderness while injured. But that's what I'm about to do because the human beings in the story are so corny and the storyline so predictable. First, we meet a 14-year-old boy played by the fine young actor Jesse Bradford. Remember him? He was great 2 years ago in King of the Hill. He finds a dog and begs his folks to keep it. Okay, so adults may be bored out of their minds with this picture. Will kids like Far From Home? Well, look, I'm sure any kid is going to cheer when a lost dog in a movie finds its way home, but they're really going to have to sit through a lot of boring scenes to get to that moment. And as a parent, I'd rather save a few bucks and rent The Black Stallion about a capsized boy and his horse instead.
Is this it? I think this is it. We've been hypothesizing for a while now, for the 2 seasons of this show, that there are some movies where it feels like Gene just read the Cliff Notes and didn't watch the full film. He maybe watched a little bit of the screener, he watched the stuff that they sent them to play on the show, and then he read like the press release and the press kit synopsis. He did not watch this movie. I guarantee you, he thinks this movie is something completely different, and we'll get to that in a second because Roger calls him out on it. But doesn't this feel like this is a total bullshit review, that he did not see the movie? He just read the synopsis and kind of filled in the blanks. That's how it feels to me, man.
You know, at times I kind of feel that way, but then I go back to Gene's background, who went to, I think, a private school. He was in the military, and I hate to bring it up, but you know what? There is a lot of structure. There is a lot of emotion that might be left, even though he was a great man. So I think this is where it's hard to relate, because when Roger goes into a dog movie, obviously these two have different sides. Gene is never for a dog movie, usually. Roger is 99%. You got a dog in it, I'm all in. So I think this is one of those that really Gene doesn't relate to. And I don't know if it's just a dog owner or a survivalist, but I would have thought, I don't remember the review originally between Siskel and Ebert, but this is one that when it comes to a focus on survival, I would have thought that Gene would have been all in on this one, where it is a flawless execution of balance between dog and kid in survival. So this one, it's hard for me to understand where he's coming from, because I mean, I was, 11, 12 at the time when this movie came out and saw it, and I was engulfed by it. I loved the survival aspect of it. I loved the teetering stakes of it, where it's not necessarily dangerous, but it could be dangerous, and we're waiting to see what the outcome's going to be. And sometimes waiting, not insulting kids, but having kids wait for an outcome teaches patience. It teaches a lot of critical thinking of what's going to happen next. And I think that's what we're missing from this critique is kids, don't insult them. They will absolutely hang by every word, every moment, as long as we don't show all the cards and we have a potential outcome, which is going to be survival or not. And that's what this movie presents. And I think this was wildly successful on engaging kids, on dragging them along to an outcome.
Right. I think that the idea that this movie would be boring for parents is a fallacy, because it's only an hour and 20 minutes long. It's an 80-minute movie. I was more bored in the hour and 10-minute long Milo and Otis than I was at the slowest part of this movie. In fact, I'd say the most boring parts of this movie and where the parents are having conversations about finding him. That's the part where it's like, get back to the dog, get back to the adventure. Not once was I bored about any of that stuff. That's why I feel like he's not fully aware of what this movie is. He keeps referencing the adventures of this dog. You and I have both stated that the dog is not the point of the movie. It's not even the main focal point. We are with Bradford in every single scene, and if the dog has its own moment, it's like literally a cutaway of him fighting the wolf, or capturing a bug or something, right? Or him going under a log. I feel like he did not watch the movie, and Roger calls him out on it.
Not only did I like this movie a lot more than you did, Gene, but I saw a different movie. This movie is not about a dog finding its way home.
Oh, okay. What did you think it was about?
It's about a boy who was lost in the wilderness and who survives for about 3 weeks using all kinds of tricks that his father has taught him, and staying dry and getting food and starting fires and trying to signal for help and trying to find roads and rivers and so forth. There's not a single scene in this movie, Gene, of that dog trying to find its way home. You can't name one.
The energy in the picture that
Can
I
you?
felt, what?
Can you? Because you said at the beginning it's about a dog trying to find its way home.
Yeah.
The dog does all of its finding its way home off screen, and you never mention the fact that the whole movie is about the boy trying to find his way home.
Because I felt that the whole energy of the picture was about whether the dog, and we knew that the boy was going, the whole tension of the picture, the whole setup of the direction of the picture is whether the dog is going to find his way home.
That's absolutely incorrect.
Okay.
That is a complete misstatement about what the movie is about. And on the basis of the movie that I saw, I think it's a fascinating movie that kids would really enjoy about this boy trying to use woodcraft in order to survive in the wilderness. I loved it. I was surprised how much I liked it.
I'm surprised, Jim, how much you like it too.
That was a bad debate performance, right? That's like a bad press secretary who can't answer a question. And Roger's smirk, that shit-eating grin that he had for like 40 seconds, says it all. He's like, I know you did not watch this movie all the way through because you will not answer the very basic questions I'm asking you that are literally the backbone of the plot of this movie. I have never seen Gene essentially try and hide his expression from the camera. And the camera cuts to Roger frequently. You can't see it in our video, but it cuts to him frequently because it sees the discomfort in Gene's face that he doesn't have an answer for this. Because he's not going to lie, because what if he's wrong? Instead, he's just going to sit there and dodge like a bad debater. That was painful for me to watch, bro.
It was painful, but so good.
It's so good.
It was
yes, I agree.
It's like Gene looked at the title of the movie and says, all right, here's another one. I'm going to take the day off on a Saturday.
I'm going to get a pastrami sandwich.
It's like most of the review is abda, abda, abda. Like, I love the fact that Roger smirks at it saying, I got you. This is what the movie is really about, Gene.
Yeah.
This is like, it was a complete takedown of Gene. So, and Roger's 100% right. This is, and we talked about it. This is more than just a dog movie. And I am almost glad at watching this review that, you know, I had a problem with the title, and I think it is a little misleading.
It's totally misleading. Yeah, the title sucks.
But it is one that shows critics like this that never saw the movie, because they can look at the title and say, I pegged this movie. I can walk in for maybe 10, 15 minutes during the middle and get it. That's not what this movie is. And it called this critic out, and he's got nothing. He really has nothing.
It's like a bad poker tell where Roger's sitting here explaining the actual plot to him, explaining the actual sequence of events. And instead of doing any kind of retort that would be meaningful, Gene just goes, He doesn't have a response. And then he tries to like be eloquent with some bullshit. And it's like, no, tell me. Roger doubles down. He's like, you did not see one instance of that dog trying to get home on his own, did you? Did you? Did you? Oh my God, I loved it. And I had never watched this review before. This review was almost as exciting to watch for the first time as the movie we're going to cover next week, which is Hoop Dreams, which I'd never seen before. I was like, oh my God, he's got him. This is the moment where he's actually got him dead to rights.
Well, and I think this is where Roger really showed a gentleman's restraint. Is he?
It's the equivalent of him slapping him with a silk glove.
He could have really said, tell me one scene of this movie. Just give me one. And, you know, he could have just gone for blood and he wouldn't be able to. But, you know, in respect, I don't want to like just destroy Gene right now. I think we both can agree the adult characters are boring.
Yeah.
They are 100% boring. And I think that's where he walked out of this movie, is because the script with the adult characters are cliche, et cetera, et cetera. But that's not the point of the movie. And it's so brief in the movie that it shouldn't even matter. It's not like that's the focal point of the movie is the adults. They're there to say, or to support the stakes of what's happening. That's it. That's their job. 5 minutes on screen, get off screen. Let's focus on the boy and the dog. So, but I think that's where Gene really got frustrated. And if I were to pinpoint the moment he may or may not have walked out of this movie, it would have been the first moment where the parents are with the search team where we have the most cliche lines. I guarantee you, if he did walk out of this movie, it would have been within that 42-minute mark.
Right. No, I think it's so great that this really validated my theory that there were movies that Gene just didn't watch. He just gave the Cliff Notes version and thought that he could pass. I've done that before, for sure. Not with like a movie review, but with a book report or something. It's like, oh yeah, I totally read this, and then you just fill with like a lot of word salad and banter for a few paragraphs. And in conclusion, that's what this feels like. And it was so good to see it. And I tell you, I haven't had so much satisfaction watching like someone just blow something up than Roger calling him out and just sitting there and smirking at him. It's like, I know what you did. You didn't watch this movie. Anyway, on to the next. So yeah, okay. I can't say anything worse about Gene's review than I just did. It was terrible. It might be, okay, maybe it's not the worst take that he's had on this show because it's not a genuine take. It's bullshit. It's a fallacy. So how do I judge him? Do I judge him on the fact that it's nonsense, or do I judge him on the fact that like it's just a bad review? I'm gonna do both. Like this is an F, but it's a double F. It's an F for credibility because I feel he loses a lot of credibility in the fact that his co-host just called him out on not watching this movie, and then it's an F of just like not being able to use that great brain of his, that journalistic critic review brain to get himself out of a pickle. If it had been me, if you had caught me in this situation where I didn't watch the movie and you called me out on it, all I had to say is like, well, it's just not the kind of movie for me, and maybe I didn't get it the way you did. You can take the L. Just be graceful with it. He didn't. He tried to fight it and he fought it badly, like a bad debater, and that's why he gets the second F for it. Double F.
I think we need a new category in our award show at the end of the year for most awkward, because it wouldn't have been as awkward if he didn't have the in the response to Roger. Now, when it comes to Roger, again, I love it. It's an entertaining review, but it's entertaining because he is really calling Gene out.
Right.
I think he does a great job besides the calling Gene out, I think he does a fantastic job. But I think at the end of the day, I think what was missing barely is the fact that he doesn't go more into depth, spend more time calling out why, in rebuttal to Gene, why this movie adults would like, why kids would like it, other than he is just going for the throat with Gene. And I think that distracts from the review a little bit of really encouraging audiences to go see this movie. But at the end of the day, it is an entertaining review because it made me squirm in my seat and it made me laugh. So I'm going to give him a solid 3.5 stars because just the mere fact that he is arguing and calling out Gene is going to promote this movie for people to go see it.
Right. I mean, it's theater, but like there's theater between the two of them. It's all about the engagement and the thing that I said earlier. We like to see a truck on fire. We like to see the dumpster fire sometimes. And this was a movie to do it because you don't need to wax poetic about how good Yellow Dog is. He liked it and he gave his reasons why. If he wanted to be more thorough, we could have talked about the things he didn't like. Because Gene, the things that he said he didn't like aren't relevant to the movie itself at all, other than the adults being boring, right? So I agree with you. It's not a perfect review, but it is almost perfect theater. And it's maybe like my favorite uncomfortable moment between the two of them next to the infamous Full Metal Jacket Benji debate. Like, it really was that good. I was really blown away that we caught Gene dead to rights, for real, in my opinion, of not being a credible critic with this movie.
Disappointing, but entertaining in our benefit.
And somewhat predictable, too, because we always knew that if it's going to be one of them that bullshits their way through a movie, it's going to be Gene.
Oh, 100%.
I think Roger's got too much credibility, and I don't want to knock Gene too much, but I think Roger's ego is more in tune and sustainable with his actual output than Gene's was. Gene's ego is the fact that I'm on TV, right? And it's always bothered him that Roger had a lot more of the laurels than Gene did. Wrote more books, had the Pulitzer, had all that stuff like that. And Gene was just kind of like, you know? But that's part of the theater too.
Well, and it goes into Gene was more of a holistic journalist. He did movies, he did sports, he did community stories. Roger,
He's all in on movies.
He's all in on movies.
Yeah.
He has
Yeah.
one job, and he's not going to let somebody discredit the movies because
Yeah, I
he had
agree.
a
That's
busy
a
day.
good point. Okay, well that was fun, and I will watch Yellow Dog for any reason, right? I wish my daughter liked it more, but she's not into that. It's a boys' movie. We talked about that with Alaska, right? Like My Side of the Mountain and Cheetah and this. They're boys' movies, and I feel like we don't have that anymore. It's like, oh God, I'm learning how to survive in the wilderness from a movie. That is a genre that to me is sorely missed, maybe just by the older crowd. I'm not sure if the Gen Alphas give a shit about surviving in the woods. They're more like, oh, just drop the bomb already, right? I don't want to survive. Put me in the epicenter. But I do miss this style of filmmaking, and I think this is a perfect example of how to do it right. And with that, now that we are getting out of animal movies, we are going to have a very special episode next week. We have a very special guest. Our number one fan, we've talked about him a few times on the show. We got Mikey Burgett of the Screen Nerds podcast. He's our number one cheerleader, our number one commenter on YouTube. He shares our content in a lot of different Discord channels. He is coming to guest on the show, and the movie he brought us to cover is the documentary from 1994, Hoop Dreams, which I have never seen. I'm really excited. Who am I kidding? I've actually already watched it, but I had never seen it before. And I tell you, man, I am so upset that I waited 32 years to watch that movie, but we'll cover that in next week's episode.
Can't wait, and I can't wait to talk to Mikey. He's been awesome and a good supporter of the show, and I am absolutely curious on the conversation that we're going to have about Hoop Dreams. So I can't wait to just talk to him. It's going to be awesome.
Right, if we could just get like 50 more Mikeys, then we'd be set for life with this podcast. Anyway, so thank you for watching, listening. Please rate, review, subscribe to our YouTube channel and also to our audio version on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can find me, Antonio, host of the Cultsworthy Cinema podcast, over at thecultsworthy.com. You can find my co-host, Justin Henson, over at
themoviewire.com.
Thank you for watching, listening, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.